You believe more options mean better decisions, right? It feels empowering to have endless possibilities, a true mark of freedom in your modern world. But what researchers discovered flips the whole idea upside down. Your brain, it turns out, isn't built for infinite choices. In fact, an abundance of options can lead to anxiety, paralysis, and even deep dissatisfaction. Why does your gut tell you that having more is always better when the science says otherwise? What happens when your freedom of choice becomes a burden instead of a blessing? You might even be making worse decisions than if you had fewer options. This surprising truth challenges your fundamental assumptions about what makes you happy and productive. Your perceived ability to choose wisely is constantly being tested and often overwhelmed. Think about your last trip to the grocery store. Did you marvel at the 24 different olive oils? Or did you just pick one that seemed good enough to escape the aisle? Or maybe you just walked away, exhausted by the mere thought of comparison. This exact scenario formed the basis of a groundbreaking experiment conducted by psychologists Sheena Iyengar and Mark Lepper. Their famous jam study set up a tasting booth in a gourmet food store. On some days, they offered a large assortment of 24 different jams. On other days, they displayed a smaller assortment of just 6 jams. What do you predict happened? Where would you expect to see more engagement in sales? Logically, a wider selection should attract more people, right? More choices mean a higher chance of finding the perfect jam for your toast. And initially, the larger display did attract more interest. 60% of customers stopped by the 24 jam table, compared to 40% for the 6 jam table. But here's the kicker. When it came to actually making a purchase, the numbers flipped dramatically. Only 3% of the people who stopped at the 24 jam display bought a jar. In stark contrast, a whopping 30% of the people who stopped at the 6 jam display ended up buying jam. That's a tenfold difference in sales. Your brain, presented with too many options, became paralyzed by its own perceived wealth. It saw an opportunity, then froze. So what's happening inside your head when you're faced with an overwhelming number of choices? It boils down to something called cognitive load and decision fatigue. Your brain, specifically your prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for executive functions like decision-making, has a finite amount of energy. Every option you consider, every pro and con you weigh, every comparison you make drains this mental energy. It's like a muscle working out. The more options you evaluate, the more reps your brain does, and the faster it gets tired. When your brain is fatigued, you become less rational. You're more likely to either avoid making a decision altogether, like those customers who didn't buy any jam, or you make a hasty, suboptimal choice just to get the task over with. Have you ever felt utterly drained after an hour of online shopping, even if you bought nothing? That's decision fatigue in action. Your brain has been sifting through hundreds, maybe thousands of data points, even if you only consciously registered a few. This constant, low-level mental strain accumulates throughout your day, impacting everything from what you eat for lunch to major life decisions. Your ability to think clearly and make thoughtful choices diminishes, often without you even realizing it. Sociologist Schwartz brought this phenomenon to mainstream attention with his influential book, The Paradox of Choice. He argues that while some choice is good and essential for well-being, too much choice can actually make you miserable. Schwartz identifies several reasons for this paradox. First, increased choice means increased expectation. When you have only 1 or 2 options, you accept what's available. But when there's 100, you start expecting perfection. You assume the absolute best must exist, and anything less feels like a compromise. Second, too many choices lead to regret and anticipated regret. Even if you make a good decision, you can't help but wonder if one of the other options might have been even better. What if you missed out? This feeling, often called buyer's remorse, is amplified by the sheer volume of discarded alternatives. Your brain runs simulations of what could have been, undermining your satisfaction with what is. This is especially true for what Schwartz calls maximizers, people who strive to make the absolute best choice possible. Maximizers will spend hours comparing, researching, and agonizing. While they might objectively make slightly better choices, they often end up less happy and more prone to regret than satisficers. People who are content with a choice that is good enough. Are you a maximizer or a satisficer? Your answer might reveal a lot about your daily happiness. This modern struggle with choice is fundamentally at odds with your evolutionary past. For hundreds of thousands of years, your ancestors lived in environments of relative scarcity and limited options. Life or death decisions were often stark. Fight or flee, eat this specific edible plant or starve, follow this specific animal track or go hungry. There wasn't an entire supermarket aisle of different root vegetables to choose from, let alone 100 brands of toothpaste. Choices were immediate, often intuitive, and vital for survival. Your brain evolved to make quick, efficient decisions under duress, prioritizing safety and resource acquisition. It did not evolve to compare hundreds of subtle variations of the same product. The cognitive tools developed for survival in a low-choice environment are now overloaded in a high-choice world. Your ancestral brain had clear, limited parameters, and now it faces an explosion of stimuli. It's ill-equipped to handle efficiently. This mismatch between your ancient brain and your modern environment creates a constant, subtle hum of stress. Now, how does this play out in your everyday life? Think about where you encounter an overwhelming number of choices. Online streaming services present an endless grid of movies and shows. You scroll for an hour, only to pick nothing, or settle for something you don't even enjoy. Online shopping sites offer thousands of versions of the same item, each with slight variations and countless reviews to sift through. Choosing a career path, a college major, or even a dating partner in the age of globalized options and apps can feel paralyzing. Your freedom, paradoxically, has become a burden. You're often left feeling less confident in your decisions rather than more. Beyond cognitive overload, other well-documented psychological biases also contribute to your struggle with too many choices. Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, pioneers in behavioral economics, revealed how your decision-making is often predictably irrational. For instance, the anchoring effect shows that your initial exposure to a number or piece of information, even if irrelevant, heavily influences subsequent judgments and choices. If you first see a price of $1,000 for a product, then see another at $500, the second seems like a bargain, even if it's still overpriced. This makes comparing hundreds of items a minefield for rational thought. Then there's loss aversion, the finding that the psychological pain of losing something is roughly twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. This means letting go of potential options feels like a loss, making it harder for you to narrow down choices. Each option you discard feels like a missed opportunity, a potential loss of the best outcome. Finally, the framing effect demonstrates how the way information or options are presented significantly alters your preferences. Presenting a choice as 90% fat-free sounds much better than contains 10% fat, even though they are identical. When faced with countless framed options, your brain struggles to find an objective comparison point. These biases, amplified by an overload of choices, make your decision-making process far more complex and emotionally taxing than you realize. Dan Ariely's work further illustrates how you're often predictably irrational, making choices that don't serve your best interests when overwhelmed. So what can you do to navigate this paradox and reclaim your decision-making power? The good news is you can train your brain to handle choice overload more effectively. First, limit your options intentionally. Before you start shopping or browsing, decide on the maximum number of options you will consider. Use filters online. Unsubscribe from newsletters that constantly tempt you with new products. You can even set rules for yourself, like only trying one new restaurant a week. Second, embrace being a satisficer. Consciously decide that good enough is often perfectly sufficient. The pursuit of perfection is an exhausting, often unrewarding quest when it comes to everyday choices. Prioritize your mental peace over the elusive, absolute best outcome. Ask yourself, is this good enough to meet my needs? If the answer is yes, then make the choice and move on. Third, outsource decisions. Delegate choices when appropriate. Let an expert recommend something, ask a trusted friend for advice, or even rely on curated lists and defaults. Many services and apps now offer default settings precisely to reduce your cognitive load. Don't be afraid to use them. Your brain doesn't need to labor over every single micro decision. Fourth, create defaults for yourself. For recurring decisions like what to eat for breakfast, what to wear for work, or what evening activity to do, establish routines. This significantly reduces the daily energy spent on trivial choices, freeing up your mental bandwidth for more important decisions. Steve Jobs famously wore the same outfit every day for this very reason. Finally, practice mindfulness about your choices. When you feel that familiar pang of overwhelm, pause. Recognize that feeling as choice overload. Take a breath. Remind yourself that fewer, simpler choices often lead to greater satisfaction. Your brain, while incredibly powerful, benefits from deliberate curation of its environment. You thought more options were a gift, a symbol of freedom in your abundant world. Your brain, it turns out, often sees them as a silent, exhausting burden. By understanding the paradox of choice and your brain's natural limitations, you can deliberately cultivate an environment of manageable options. This simple shift will not only reduce your stress, but surprisingly, also increase your satisfaction and overall happiness. Less choice, it seems, isn't a deprivation at all. It's liberation for your modern mind.